In life, there are few things more important than unity. If you are going to be working with other people, if you want to be successful, you have to be united. You have to be unified. Whether you're playing a sport, whether you're working a job, or whether you're in church life, unity and being unified is of the utmost importance. And as we continue hitting the high points of the book of Philippians, today in Philippians chapter 2, we're going to see the secret to being united in whatever you do. Let's get into the text. Philippians 2 verse 1 says, "Therefore, if there is any consolation in Christ, if any comfort of love, if any fellowship of the Spirit, if any affection and mercy, fulfill my joy by being like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind." So to start off this passage, Paul pretty much starts asking these hypothetical questions to the church. He's saying, if you've ever experienced this, and these hypothetical questions are things that every single Christian has at some point experienced. If you've been a Christian for very long, then you have experienced the comfort that Christ gives you. You've experienced the comfort that can only come from God in your times of trial and times of difficulty. God brings you comfort. Next, he says, if you've received any comfort of love, if you've ever received comfort and love from other Christians, then there's something Paul wants you to do. Then he continues, he says, if you have ever experienced any affection and mercy, if you have ever experienced God's affection for you, if you've ever experienced God's mercy, if you've ever experienced any of these four things that every single Christian will at some point experience, Paul wants you to do something. What does he want you to do? We already read it, but I'm going to read it again. He says, I want you to make me happy, fulfill my joy by being like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord and of one mind. You see, what Paul is saying is if you're really a Christian and you've experienced these things that typify the Christian life, then I have something that I want you to do. Something is expected of you. I'm expecting you to do something, and God is also expecting you to do something. Now, what is it that God is expecting you to do, and what is it that Paul is expecting you to do? It's simple. He expects you to be unified. He expects you to be united. Now, Paul here is speaking to the church, and it is so important that a church be united. It's so important that a church does not let their own selfish interest or their own ideas or opinions or pride cause drama and strife and pettiness in the church. And what Paul is saying, this is required of you. It's expected that you be united. But friends, it goes so much deeper than just an application to the local church. If you're married or if you're dating or if you're working a job and you're doing it with other Christians, you need to be united. It's expected that you be united. If you want to have a successful marriage or a successful relationship of any kind, you have to be unified on the important stuff. You have to create a united front. That is what Paul is saying. If you've experienced Christ, then you and other Christians need to be united in sharing the gospel, united in rightly representing Christ. But all that being said, it sounds great. But what is the secret to unity? We see that Paul wants us to be united. We see that Christ expects us to be united. But how can we truly become united as a church, as a family, as a husband and wife, as boyfriend and girlfriend, as friends, as co-workers? How can we develop a true sense of unity? Look at the next couple of verses here. Look in verse 3. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look out not only for his own interest, but also the interest of others. So what's the secret to being united? What's the secret of unity? Paul tells us here, he tells us this in three different ways, and I'm going to walk through all three of these things individually real fast. But all that this points to one word, The key to unity is one word: humility. You will never have unity in your marriage, in your church, in your family life, if you don't have humility. Now, what is humility? I believe that Paul gives us a perfect definition of humility right here. What is the first aspect of humility? First of all, verse 3, let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit. That's the step one of being humble, is you have to realize that it's not all about you. Don't just do things because it benefits you. If the only things you do in your church or in your family or in your marriage are those things that benefit you somehow, you're never going to experience unity as a church, as a family, or as a couple. Humility is about doing things for other people, not just about yourself. It's about doing things with an unselfish attitude, doing things to help other people and love on other people. But not only that, what else is humility? Humility is also in lowliness of mind, esteeming others as better than yourself. Humility is also valuing other people, their needs and their opinions above your own needs and opinions. That is humility. But there's a third part of humility. Verse 4, let each of you look out not only for his own interest, but also the interest of others. The Greek word here that's translated as look out is the Greek word scopio. We get our English word scope, like a scope on a gun, from this word. What Paul is wanting us to envision is he wants us to imagine looking through a scope and we have got the crosshairs on someone else's needs, not our own. So often we focus the scope on whatever we need. But instead we need to focus the scope on what other people need and do whatever it takes to help them get what they need. This is the key to unity. And maybe you're wondering, well, if I do this, who's going to take care of my needs? You see, in church life, if we would all look out for one another's needs, then everyone's needs would be met. In marriage, if you would look out for your husband's needs and your husband looks out for your needs, everyone's needs are met. This is how to have true unity in any kind of relationship. Church relationships, family relationships, marriage. It all comes down to humility. I want to challenge you to put these things in practice today. And I guarantee that if you do this and you do this well and your spouse or your church does this well, you will see the secret to becoming united was really all about humility.